Okay, hello everyone. Hello Duncan. Happy to be with you.
Yeah, looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to having a good conversation.
All right, sounds good. So let me give 1 minute background about you, very short, succinctly. Then, of course, feel free to correct me afterwards. The idea today is to go through some questions. So I have organized it in a couple of parts. We will see what we have time to cover. But let's jump into it directly, if it's all right with you.
Yep,
So
let's go.
Duncan, you joined Solvace, if I'm not mistaken, 8 to 9 months ago, end of 2025. You're now working as a customer success account manager for the company, and you are pretty unique, a pretty unique profile, having worked for close to 27 years in the same manufacturing company, chemical manufacturing company, and also medical supply product, if I'm not wrong, occupying diverse roles. So you are maybe the only guy in Europe having gone from all the way from the line operator all the way to the plant manager with many different roles in between. So that's a pretty unique profile. So that's why we wanted to have this interview with you today. So once again, happy to be with you. Anything to correct before I jump into some questions?
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yep, that is exactly correct. So 26 years with the same company, traveled all around the world with many different roles, and yeah, brilliant career so far, and enjoying my time with Solvace.
Sounds good. Sounds good. It's pretty unique indeed. And actually, my first question then, if you can slightly, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, try to summarize. I know it's a tough question to ask, but try to summarize then your experience prior to joining Solvace. 2 to 3 minutes. You don't have to jump into the details of each of the roles, but maybe a couple of highlights from there. And maybe also your background before this, actually, understanding where you come academically speaking before going into this first manufacturing company.
Yep. So I started, as you said, about 27 years ago in manufacturing on the shop floor. I was then lucky enough to take on a role within the training department. And during that time, I actually got my degree. So I did a degree in manufacturing engineering, which took me 4 years. So I did working in nights at the factories, and then I'd go and do my study outside of those hours. So very fortunate to be able to have that opportunity to be working in industry and do my degree at the same time. So that's a bit about my background before I started. And then after that, I went into a couple of IT roles looking at MRPs. So looking at material and how that interacted into and out of the factories. And then a bit of work across Labware LIMS. So again, a very software background for those two. And then I got the opportunity to go and be an engineer again, working in a factory where we were going to put new equipment in, get them up and running, this equipment, and then the opportunity to sort of train the locals to take over from me. But I think one of the key elements the whole way through my time with my last company was my passion was always around the computer systems and trying to make information readily available and being able to use it in an effective way to make decisions as going through, which is why I jumped on the opportunity then at the end of my time after I'd just been a plant manager here in the UK to then start to do something I really have passion about, which is bringing data to the teams all the way from the shop floor right the way to the top management.
Okay, okay, interesting. And when you were moving, switching roles, like going from shop floor to IT, then to engineering, then to management, and so on, like was it driven by yourself, or was it just like jumping opportunistically on opportunities presented to you, or how did it happen?
Very much opportunities. I was very lucky to be in the company at the time of a lot of growth. A lot of new factories put in new processes, and during that time, I got approached by a number of opportunities which were in places that I'd never heard of before in some of them, and every single one I jumped on to take on that different experience. And I think as that went on, I got to meet lots more people. I think that's one of the key takeaways from my career so far is that, it's sometimes not what you know, it's who you know, and how you use your knowledge and pass it on to others is absolutely critical, which is why I've had such an amazing career up until now.
And so here, like to to play a bit, like what role or roles did you prefer the most? Because indeed it has been very different, and you seem on one side to enjoy very much like data and IT topic in general, but in the same time seems to be displaying some kind of appetence for training also people. So are there any roles that you preferred in general, things that you did not like at all, on the contrary?
I think probably the most rewarding role I had, and it actually covers quite a few of the roles I took on, was developing others. So one of the things I thoroughly enjoyed and probably gave me the most satisfaction about my career was working with others and sort of empowering them to see their full potential. So whether I was a project engineer working with other project people, whether I was a manager, whether I was a supervisor, or even in training, it was amazing to sort of empower people to take their careers even further than what they thought. So I have to say that's probably some of the biggest highlights, was that opportunity to help and shape some people in the future within the industry.
Okay, and now let's see the other side of the coin. What roles didn't you like? It's okay. It's in the past now. You can say.
I think there's a lot of pressure that comes with running a manufacturing facility. There's many different moving pieces. There's never ever going to be any downtime. So when you reach a goal, you're then going for the next goal. So it's continuous. Now I have to say, at some points that got quite a lot for me. But generally, it's probably what I enjoyed. That challenge. There was never one day the same. So it's I think that was probably the hardest part about it. But it also made me stretch myself even more.
And to ask bluntly, is it actually like this level of pressure, this intensity that made you want to change at the end of your career in this manufacturing company, or something
No,
else?
I think that was more to do with the opportunity at Solvace. You know, I saw the platform. Actually, one of an ex-colleague was working for Solvace at the time, and he'd taken me through it, and got approached by one of the team in the CS team, and they said, "Look, if you want the opportunity, it's here." And I thought it would be actually a really good fit for the next chapter, the next challenge. One of the things I've always tried to do is actually change my job every 3 to 4 years, to try something different, try something new, to try and stretch myself. And this was completely different. To be part of a software company, still in manufacturing, was the next challenge that I felt was I was ready for.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. And as you say, at Solvace now you can combine a bit of all of them, like intensity of the role, empowering people, being in touch with different kind of personas, having the data-driven mindset embedded into it. So it combines a bit of all of the words that you mentioned earlier. Okay, sounds good. Maybe now let's jump into another topic I want to address after your background, operational excellence in general. So historically, we can say that it comes from Toyota production system, the lean framework, and so on. How, in your own words, would you define operational excellence? What do you think it is? How would you define it?
So operational excellence for me is all about the efficiency of how well you can either problem solve or move forward. So whether you're in a continuous improvement role where you're looking for those next opportunities, or whether you're in a quality role trying to solve problems, doing root cause analysis, it's all about trying to get the right information to make a quick, decisive decision. And I think this is probably the gap that I've had a lot through my career, is trying to get as much information, the right amount of information, to make a decision as quickly as possible. So I think operational excellence is about having right information to make the right decision at the right time. Now, the right decision doesn't always have all of the information that you need, but operational excellence, you have to make the best judgment with the information that you have. So I think it's all about trying to take that information and sort of move things forward as quickly as you can, because for the world is forever changing and there's always new targets. So you're always trying to create that plan, do, check, act, the PDCA loop that you're always going through as a business.
And doing a transition here from what you say, the world is changing. There is a component of speed that's important in nowadays businesses in general. Do you think that operational excellence is necessary nowadays, or can a company still be competitive actually without having some kind of a OPEX program or a lean program or something like this?
I've seen it before, so I think that you can survive without an OPEX program, but you will just not be competitive in the future. So what I've seen before in some cases is a technology that's outstripped the rest of the market. And what happens is that technology will last a certain amount of time. But unless the business keeps on innovating and keeps on pushing forward and striving to either reduce costs, improve efficiencies, or trying to look for that next opportunity, I think they're the things that are really the danger points for businesses. It's businesses that stay stagnant are the ones that will struggle in the future. And what OPEX does is it really enables a business to understand, one, what they're good at, two, what they can actually get out of the future, and number three, where are they going? And with a good OPEX program, you can set a direction, you can go in that direction, but never be afraid to change that direction at a certain point. One thing that threw a lot of companies was the war in the Ukraine, for example. That threw a lot of companies with supply and so forth. And that's how you need to adapt your OPEX program. And if you have a proper OPEX program, being able to change becomes a lot easier because you've got the information around you. You understand the structure of what is good, what is bad, and what you need to move forward.
But to play a bit the devil advocate here, do you think that that a company actually needs like a specific program, like a framework with dedicated pillars and topics to address, or is it not overall what actually companies are doing anyway? Because every business aims at reducing waste in general, like having more revenue, decreasing costs, and so on. So do we actually need kind of a framework, a dedicated program with people that are paid to think about those programs, the tools that are needed for it, or can we just, or can we do without?
You can do without, but you just won't be as efficient. So the Toyota program has been built over many years, for example, and the principles behind OPEX just make processes and systems much more visible and much easier for a lot of people to grasp and move things forward. So I think that a good OPEX program shows a good strategy that will then lead to a business winning. If you don't have an OPEX program, you won't not win, but you might miss the biggest opportunities out there. It helps to create structure.
Okay, interesting. Your previous company, did they have such a program or something that looks like an OPEX program? Yes, no? Yeah,
yes,
okay.
Definitely, yeah. Very much into that type of thing. And I think if you run an OPEX program with a global company, you get a lot more sort of sharing of information, and you can win in one site, which can then also lead to the other sites winning. If you have a really strong OPEX program, you get consistency across all of those manufacturing areas, which means that you win as a group, rather than what I've seen before in some places, that you actually get areas where people go, or factories go off in their own direction. They invent the wheel one way, and then there's another factory in a different place that invents the wheel in a completely the same way, whereas they could have done it much quicker and much easier. And I've seen that, over the 20 years that I was working, I've seen that multiple times. And I think that's sort of the maturity that the OPEX program goes through. OPEX starts quite small, and as it grows and you can get consistency across these different regions, different sites, you can really leverage those improvements across the whole company.
And for example, in the program implemented by your company before, without entering there, of course, there are some specific details, but are you able to give some inputs about what was well implemented? So for example, as you said, maybe standardization across different sites, and what were poorly implemented, maybe, I don't know, like some specific tools that were not modern enough or something like this. Do you have any inputs on some bad and goods?
Yeah, so I think some of the principles, the really basic ones, need to be done first. Your simple 5S, setting out, sorting out, making sure you've got the right thing in the right place. So it sounds really dull, but it's actually such a simple principle, but it makes such a difference. And if you start to build that level through the business into tiered meetings, so everybody knows and is aligned all the way. In the last sort of Opex program I was working in, we had a thing called the golden string, and basically, or the golden thread. Sorry, the golden thread, and basically.
Okay.
Thread would run right the way from the shop floor right to the top of the business, and that thread would then show you the path that you're affecting the whole way, whether it be safety, whether it be quality, whether it be production output, cost. You would have a thread that you can actually say, as an operator on the shop floor, I'm affecting this at the top level. And if you can get to that, you also get the engagement of the business as well, the people the whole way through the business. And I think that's a really key thing, is if you can engage and get people on board right the way through the business and all understanding where you're trying to go, that is so empowering. You will make change much quicker. You'll make change much more effective as well. And I think those are sort of tools that really accelerate that sort of program.
And would you say, sorry? Yeah, no. You indirectly gave some input about what maybe was not super well implemented. But just following up on this, do you think that the main challenge is actually what? Finding the tools, defining the methodology, pushing people to adopt that? What is it?
Culture.
Okay.
So it's very interesting because we were talking about this in Solvace the other day with some of my colleagues on the onboarding team. And they'd done 2 different sites of onboarding, and they went into one and they really struggled to impact that onboarding process at the time. They went and did exactly the same thing at another site, and the culture on that site and the leadership in that site, because that culture was in the way that they wanted it, they were going to wholeheartedly buy it and push it forward the whole way through the business. They were so well, it was the fastest, most effective implementation that they've been able to do because of that culture that they have on there. And I visited a few of my clients recently as well, and they're very strong in the tiered meeting process. And every single site runs the same tiered meeting because the culture is set right at the top of that business. And then it is followed the whole way through the business to every single shop floor talks about the same things. And it's amazing to see that alignment in a worldwide company. I've not seen that before. And I think it really opened my eyes. And it all comes through from culture.
But how to actually have such an alignment between different teams, different sides, different levels of hierarchy? Like, what is it? Is the tool actually facilitating this cultural alignment to adopt the framework, or is it just communication, or is it something else?
No, so to me, it's all about, so if the business decides that they want to make effective alignment, so if they're doing it well in one place, then why don't we do it well in all of the other places? What the tool helped them to do was make it easy to make it standardized across all of the areas, right? So that's where the tool, and I've never seen this before. Everywhere I've worked before, we'd use a lot of Power BI, we'd use a lot of Excel sheets, and it's very hard to create standardization. What I've seen in the company I'm working, well, a few of the companies I'm working on at the moment, the standardization that they're creating is brilliant. It's so good because the tool is easy to use to standardize. And when I say standardize, not every single site has the same KPIs, but they have the same methodology. They have the same system, and they have a team that is basically enabling all the factories around the world to be able to be part of that. And it's not dictated down to the last KPI. It's dictated down to, this is the methodology, this is the process you must follow. And then this is the tool we are using to enable it to be done easily. And I think that's really where I've seen that culture coming together with a really good tool to enable it going forward.
Okay, interesting. And I want to touch upon the tools actually, and then the digital tools actually, because Solvace obviously is a Opex digital tool. But maybe one last question to close on the Opex chapter in general. Also because you have worked, so now you work with clients that have sites globally, and yourself, you have worked in different parts of the world. So what were, or have you seen any differences between regions, between countries in their approach to OPEX in general? Because OPEX, as you mentioned, can be like a added layer to try to optimize process, decrease costs, and so on. But what about countries where labor is very cheap, where maybe decreasing costs is not as important than in a country like Germany or Austria or something like this? So what's your opinion about cultural, and here I'm talking cultural slash national, countrywide differences in implementing and approaching an OPEX framework?
Well, it's interesting because I did do, having worked in many countries in my time, I have got the opportunity to go to different cultures. And when I first started in one of my factories that I worked for, the culture was very different to what I was used to in the last factory I was in. And what we did was the principles that we stood by as a company, we started to train teams, because a lot of countries don't want some people to think about what they're doing. They just want doers to do the job and so forth. But I was very lucky that the company that I was working for previously, that wasn't the case. They want people to think, they want to. And again, it goes back to that cultural piece. So they believe that we believe that the most effective way to get the most out of the manufacturing and what we were trying to achieve was by empowering people. And if you empower people and you create the tools and the systems around them to be part of that and to see what they are contributing, it will go a long way, because you're basically going to have, instead of just 1 or 2, 3 supervisors making decisions, making changes, you can have a whole workforce. You can have 50, 60 operators there inputting, looking for those opportunities, and seeing when their thing actually goes right, they're like, that was me. I did that. It's brilliant. And that's that empowering piece. And I think, yes, when you first start in a different country, I got the opportunity to build a few factories in different countries. That's a hard culture to change. But if you are able to enable it and change that culture for the people that you have on board, it's really empowering. And I think you're right, there is different cultures. They have different ways of looking at KPIs. And I've not seen 2 countries or 2 businesses or 2 different sites with the same KPIs. Every site will have different challenges, whether it be materials challenges, whether it be labor challenges, whether it be Opex challenges, whatever it is. You have to tailor that to the individual site that you're actually working and the workforce and how you empower them.
Okay, clear. And maybe just for context here, correct me if I'm wrong, but you worked at least in the following countries: UK, Macedonia, Russia, and Belgium.
Yep. And
correct.
Did
all right.
Quite a bit in South Africa as well. So
South Africa. Okay, so it definitely like gives you even more than countries, even different continents, should we say? So